Hello, everyone. Good to see you again. I'm Matthew Drake. Well, last month was Pride Month, as many of you know. You might have watched my illustration, which is in the background here, where I illustrated Mark Collette talking about the normalization of child, everything from queerness to pedophilia. But yeah, they're bringing in the children, and people often use this phrase, right? That they're normalizing X. They're bringing in pedophilia. They're trying to normalize all these things, which really means 10 years ago this thing was unacceptable to the common populace, but now they've come to accept it through all this indoctrination and brainwashing. But I just, I don't know if the term is quite right, because they try to make it normal, but in my mind, nothing you can do will ever make these things normal. So I came up with this term, normalphobia, because of course the left, you've heard that the left always projects. They always accuse you of exactly what they're doing, and so they spin all of these adjectives onto us, and they try to call us, homophobic, queerphobic, Islamophobic, which is to say you have this irrational fear that it's not justified. You're just being a bigot, really, and that's really, we can turn it on these people because they're the ones truly being bigoted, and they are consistently bigoted towards the normal folk. You heard Donald Trump, how many times did he refer to the common man, the forgotten man? He's just talking about normal people. So here's the list. Some of the ways in which our enemies on the left in particular are bigoted and phobic. So obviously they're heterophobic, right? They're afraid of people who pair bond and have the ability to produce children. And I do want to get down to this definition of normal, because, hey, the postmodernists, you do have to address their relativity thing. Oh, you say this is normal, but to me, I think this thing is normal, right? I think this degenerate things and sexualization of children, I think that's normal. So there. Well, what is normal? And I would say we have to have some evolutionary, or we have to incorporate nature into our definition of normal. And so I would say normal is that which, if the entire population consisted of this type of people, you would still have a sustainable population. So obviously it's not normal to be a homosexual, because homosexuals don't have children, and therefore if everyone was a homosexual, you could not continue your lineage, your race of people, or your ethnicity. The same thing goes with, to some degree, I include religion in this, because I think there's a correlation between people being religious and having more children. But family, right? So there's family phobes out there. And why is that? Well, it's because the nuclear family is something that, at least for humans, has proven to be the natural way we procreate and carry on our species. So they attack the family because they know that is the strength of our people. They know that once you attack the family and you've got all these children growing up in single parent, namely single moms, households, it's destructive for the child, and the child will gravitate towards all kinds of degenerate behaviors, all kinds of ideologies that are harmful to the society, and they can get their hooks in there. Yeah, so also the rural aspect. There's this, um, the cosmopolitan elite is the very opposite of normal. That's someone who, and we'll look at a story that's been in the news about Epstein recently, but just New York City is really the hub for this, and it's a lot of rootless cosmopolitans. And so conversely, you've got the ruralites out there who they just want to be left alone mostly, and they're largely self-sufficient and they can live off the land and everything. So these are things that are sustainable, but these huge financial capitals or whatever, these things aren't sustainable. They rely on government to function, and they're cozy with government. So this is really, it's an artificial construct, an artificial way of living that a lot of people nowadays have adopted. And you've had this phenomenon of fleeing your hometown and going away. And so a lot of people, as I think Tucker Carlson has talked about, people are moving away from their roots, right? And this is kind of destabilizing for people because everything's new. And when you're young, it's kind of appealing for this to be the case. But, if you don't return to something that's more grounded, you're really going to have a hard time launching later in your life when you want to settle down and make a family. So obviously there's a racial aspect to this. I mean, it's often said that these normalphobes hate white people. They're anti-white. And this I believe is a motivator. But why do they hate white people? Is it just random? Is it just, are they, I mean, perhaps they're slightly jealous in a way, but I think it's really because white people, they know, are the ones who can stop their designs for whatever, world control, world domination, and just spreading this disease of this mind virus of degeneracy and destruction of our people. So and the consumerism aspect too. There's a lot of anti-consumer sentiment among white people. White people are terrible consumers. We like to save. We like to, we're kind of cheap. We like to sometimes have nice things, but ultimately we're looking ahead to the future. We're not just concerned about our high time preference desires. I think we should jump in then to some of these stories so that I can illustrate exactly what I'm talking about. So Jeffrey Epstein, you've by now surely heard that he's having some trouble, and basically about a decade ago in 2008 he was convicted of a sex crime. Now he has this island in the Caribbean where he brings all these wealthy people and folks like Bill Clinton and Trump and Dershowitz and a lot of these big names have flown there. And it's, Donald Trump talked about long ago, this guy, he said, he likes the girls young. He likes his women young, kind of like me. But so he was. Some people think maybe hinting at it, but this has been unofficially known that this stuff was happening. But in 2008, he got off with a slap on the wrist, and he was charged as being a sex offender. They charged him with one count of prostitution, accepting a prostitute, which is a complete smack in the face for the girls and people who know what was really going on, which is that he was really running this sex ring for wealthy, powerful people. So I'm gonna read from this. I try to go with sources that not a lot of people will have read, and so the New York Times is going to be perfect for this because nobody reads the New York Times. A strange thing happened when Jeffrey Epstein came back to New York City after being branded a sex offender. His reputation appeared to rise. And so the people in the mainstream, they've decided, okay, whoever the higher ups, they've decided Jeffrey Epstein is going to take the fall for this. Okay, he's going to somebody has to suffer, so it's got to be him. But ultimately, the people who are in his circles, I do not think anyone else is going to face consequences other than Jeffrey Epstein, and even him, he'll probably go to some Shabbat jail or whatever in New York, where he's well taken care of, right? But he really did not get the book thrown at him previously, and it's just a joke, the kinds of consequences he faced before. And yet when he got out, it was as if nothing had happened, and as they say here, people were more respectful of him. So what does that say about the other people, that they're willing to go around they're willing to hang out with a sex predator? And if I scroll down here, there's a line where Epstein's talking about this label of sexual predator. He said, "I'm not a sexual predator, I'm an offender." He told the New York Post in 2011. "It's the difference between a murderer and a person who steals a bagel." Okay, so having sex with someone who's underage is no different than a person who steals a bagel? I mean, first of all, I would say a murderer is above a sexual predator. So you're probably, but so therefore your gap must be larger. Like this just doesn't make any sense here. So they talk about his connections with Harvard University. He didn't go to Harvard, but people like Alan Dershowitz and Steven Pinker were, very cozy with this guy, and largely because he had a lot of money and he was willing to open his wallet. But, they had no problem with his priors, even though he was convicted, right? And so, who is the most guilty of normalphobia? Well, I would say it's Jewish people. Now, that doesn't mean there can't be Jews who fall into this category of normal, but by and large, the people who are most hostile to normal people are Jews. And this, I think, comes a lot out of, some people say genetics, but also the Talmud, where they've got these clauses in there that say when you go to the Goy countries, you're not bound by their laws. You are bound by Jewish laws, right? And so there's this thing, even in the Old Testament, they have it where, you're allowed to lend, usury to people not in your tribe, but you're not allowed to charge interest to people, to other Jews. So, this is why I think Steph von Molyneux had this tweet about, I wonder if Jeffrey Epstein brought in any Jewish girls into his sex ring here. Probably not. Probably not, because, it was mostly white girls. Tweens. He says later in here, tweens and teens, people, he defends himself by saying, people call me a pedophile, but I was only having sex with tweens and teens. So, if the girl's 14, well, therefore she's okay because she's not really a child anymore. And so this is the way these evil people justify what they're doing. They have complete disregard for the laws, and they can get away with it because, well, they have money. Certainly they have money, and they have influence. They have people in the Justice Department, Acosta, who people are pointing the finger at in the Trump administration, and he let this guy off. I think he was told, basically, don't go after this guy because he's under the protection of intelligence. Well, intelligence for who? So yeah, but what I really wanted to show through this article is that the people in these positions of power and finance, moguls in New York City, which includes Donald Trump, and the media will always go after Donald Trump and his connection to Epstein first, but I think he was really one of the least guilty in this example. They are completely okay with a known sexual predator, a known pedophile enabler, and potentially pedophile himself. So what does that tell you about these people? Well, they have a scorn for the normal, and the Me Too culture is kind of changing this, and man, I can't really think of very many non-Jews who have been affected by the Me Too movement. It's kind of interesting, right? But this is kind of an example of the culture turning on them, and where their intersectionality comes into conflict, because they used to say, well, we're going to lift up women and single moms, and so therefore we should, there's one ideology, a branch of the ideology of the left that says, let's go after these people who are hurting women, because they took seriously the message that we care about women, and so this developed into a Me Too movement. But now this has ensnared a lot of these high upper echelon moguls in Hollywood and finance, who have been engaging in this stuff for decades. And what is the result? What is the cover-up for all this? Well, they say, oh, this is a problem with white men. Jeffrey Epstein, by his co-ethnics, he's called a white guy. And amazingly, the Wikipedia page changed, they edited out the phrase that he came from a Jewish family to that he came from a white family. Wow, how did this happen? And what a coincidence that it happens right after he takes the fall for all these crimes. So yeah, they're trying to pin it off on white guys, because white guys are normal, and they want to, in the populace, sow this resentment against white men and so on. It's just this common tactic that we see again and again. So let's move on to the next story. We've got Mother Jones. This is a bit older. Internet trolls are raving about Tulsi Gabbard's debate performance, and they're calling her mommy. The Hawaii Democrat continues to draw support from elements of the alt-right. Dun, dun, dun. So, they're trying to take her down. The internet far-right thinks Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard stole the show, during Wednesday's Democratic presidential debate. High-profile right-wing and alt-right internet trolls like Jack Posobiec, fellow Pizzagater Mike Cernovich, and Infowars' Paul Joseph Watson praised Gabbard on Twitter for her performance alongside 9 other candidates on the Miami stage. By the way, Cernovich is the one who had a lot of influence in breaking through this Epstein case, and say what you will about him, maybe he is a gatekeeper, but he did some good work on that. And yet they're still calling him out on the Pizzagate stuff. Oh, he's a Pizzagator. They don't call him a documentary filmmaker or anything like that. But here we have this language. The internet alt-right trolls. They're just trolls. They're not average people like you, right? Mother Jones. Now, Mother Jones is on your side, but these internet trolls, they are just these really bad elements, and you gotta be afraid of them. And they're fringe. Their ideas aren't popular. This is what they want you to believe. Even though Donald Trump got elected on right-wing populism. So it's clear that most people what is this ad? Grab a beer with Elizabeth Warren. Here, this is this thing. They're always trying to normalize or make these candidates seem they have to pander to the middle class. They have to pander to common average white people now and then, or pay lip service to it, because we're still the majority voting bloc, right? And they've had to do this for a long time, and because of the demographic situation and immigration, they thought that they didn't have to keep doing this, and they're kind of mad that, gosh darn it, we have to sort of pay lip service to the normal people, the white rural middle class, who they don't like these progressive agendas. They don't like the tranny stuff. But yet they're failing. The Democrat debate, all of them raised their hands when they said, will you give free health care to illegal immigrants? All of them raised their hands. So they're failing at this job of appealing to normal people because of all the pressure in their little bubble, their little echo chamber. And the normalphobia among their circles has reached such a height that there's this frenzy. And so there's this disconnect between, in the primaries, trying to appeal to normal people. And in the primaries, they don't have to worry about it as much, but they certainly have to worry about it in the general election if they want to beat Donald Trump. Where's the talk about the 4chan here? Oh yeah, a flash poll hosted by the right-leaning Drudge Report marked Gabbard as the winner. While such surveys are statistically meaningless, the morning after the debate, Watson tweeted referencing the poll, "Leftists are furious Tulsi Gabbard won the debate. She was the only authentic person on that stage." What does that tell you? Yeah, these surveys are meaningless, but our polls, our straw polls, which were terribly inaccurate leading up to the 2016 election, and which, caused the media to say, well, Hillary Clinton has a 99% chance of winning. These people had, what's the expression? Mud on their face. So, they obviously haven't learned their lesson. Why is it meaningless, a Drudge Report, just because of the Drudge reporters are right-leaning? Well, there's a lot of people in this country who are right-leaning, And even the ones who are on the left, as I said, they don't like these stupid Democrat policies which go after the average, common, forgotten white man and woman. Trolls have been attracted by her isolationist views and her willingness to criticize Israel, a country they believe Trump and other politicians have been too cozy with, along with her accusation earlier this year that Democrats participated in religious bigotry during their questioning of a Trump judicial nominee. Where's the lie? I love this. They put out the point, but they never rebut it, right? Oh no, we don't have to actually show you why these trolls are wrong. We just call them trolls and hope that, you know, your trust in the mainstream media and in the institutions is going to be strong enough that you won't question anything. So yeah, Tulsi Gabbard did do a great job in these debates, and what does that show you? I mean, it's just these Zionists and Jews, they're having, and neocons, but I repeat myself, they're having trouble with the war aspect, you know, because there's been so many failed wars in the Middle East. Wars, not everyone knows that there's explicitly wars for Israel or Saudi Arabia, but they know that these things have cost lots of life, American lives, and it's the normal sons and daughters who are going to fight in these wars. It's not these cosmopolitan elites, right? They're not involved in actually fighting the wars. No, they want you to go fight the wars for them. And so this narrative, thanks largely to the internet, has gotten out there, and the left now is primarily, with the exception of one person, Tulsi Gabbard, the left is the pro-war side. You understand that, right? I mean, I think that has to be a large reason why you've seen a flip, Democrats moving to vote Republican with the 2016 election, is because people they're fed up with this crap and these lies that they've been sold into. And so it's just getting harder and harder to push these wars. They have to escalate their false flags even more, to the point where, you know, what is it going to take? Is another 9/11 even going to be enough to get us into war? I don't know. It's getting harder. So they're upset about that for sure. Now, they mention, you know, white nationalist Nick Fuentes in this article, which I thought was funny, on how he and others, you know, they adopted the Yang Gang meme. You know, I mean, you can call them trolls, but they're not going to go away. At least they're not calling them Russian bots. I think that's, you know, because a troll, okay, maybe they're engaging in trolling tactics, perhaps, but there's still people behind these trolls. And yes, they may be an anonymous person on 4chan, but these people, they're still people. They're still people like you and me, and they're fed up with what the government has force-fed them. You know, forcing them to pay their taxes, to foreign aid in Israel, to fund their military, to fund their wall, while meanwhile we can't have a wall. We can't deport people who aren't supposed to be in this country. People are just, they've had enough with it. And I guess that brings me to my last little, it's not an article, it's a Twitter account here. We're going to look at Alyssa Rubin. Now, her handle is Allie Mixed Up, which is, I guess, a play on all mixed up. Good 311 song, by the way. It's a good song, but mixed up. There you go. It's right in your face. Now, this individual is obviously a Jewish woman, and she's very proud of that fact. She says in her bio, "Just your average queer lefty Jewish rebel rouser, trying to love myself and the world better." So she's associated with this never again action movement, and she had a tweet end of last month that got 28,000 retweets. It said, "Jews are shutting down an ICE detention center. 200 Jews are shutting down an ICE detention center because when we say never again, we fucking clap, it. Never, hashtag never again is now at CCA Elizabeth Detention Center." And she's got this video here. Let's play this a little bit. I think it'll play for you guys. Here we go. Showing pictures of the detention center. Hundreds protesting.
Thousands of people have come together across the country in the last week to take action. Over 100 have taken arrests.
For these Jews.
Never again for anyone. Never again for the Nazis.
None of us were around in 1930s Germany. But we are here today in America in 2019. Let's make that difference count.
They got the person in the wheelchair there. Oh, we shut down ICE. So this is wow. They're being very open about it, right? We are Jews, and we want to, stand in the way of the government from enforcing their borders. And this is only one action group. There's many others. But why? Why Jews? You might be wondering, like, why? And well, I think I'm not the first to say this, but they feel, and they will admit to you if you get them privately, they'll admit to you that they feel very, sometimes not privately, they feel very uncomfortable in a homogenous country, a country of normal people. Because, going back to my definition of normal, which is something that can carry on for into the future, and we can carry on our lineage, and our descendants will be there. Well, this is a normal thing. When you have multiculturalism, that is antithetical to the normal, because it will not be sustainable. You get all these fighting. I mean, we thought in the 1960s maybe we can make it work. Maybe we can have this dream that Martin Luther King Jr. talked about, where it's not the color of your skin that you're judged by, but the content of your character. And we've seen that it's a farce. And you can go into, I'm not going to go into Martin Luther King Jr. He was a terrible person and just cheated on his wife and was a communist rabble rouser, and he had I think Levin or something, some Jewish associate or handler or something helped him with these speeches and get this. So yeah, I mean, back in the day, Jews were very much behind the civil rights movement, and they've been pushing for this for a long time. They feel uncomfortable, and I watched this Joe Rogan interview with one of the intellectual dork web guys, Weinstein, Eric Weinstein, I think. He's a mathematician professor, and so, you know, right there, academia, not normal, at least not today. Maybe there was a time where these people were more in the norm, but no, these guys are part of the elite establishment. Despite, you know, okay, he doesn't like identity politics. I mean, and maybe he thinks that some of the, you know, transgender stuff has gone too far. All right. Oh, so he moderates it a little bit, but he says in there how he's gloating about how much he loves the other, and he is at heart a xenophile, you know, because he's different himself as a Jew, and he doesn't belong. And so when he sees other people who don't belong, you know, they have in this video is a perfect demonstration of people trying to flaunt the way that they're not normal. They have blue hair, piercings, they're fat, they're just completely undesirable, completely unable to carry things down to their children, to preserve an identity or a heritage. They want none of that. They're the complete antithesis to this. You have a guy in a wheelchair, right? A crippled person. These are the guys that they lift up as heroes. You know, they used to call them minorities, but they're becoming less and less minorities as the left has won the culture war. And so, you know, Jews, they consider themselves to be, you know, this is their community, the people who are misfits and they don't belong. And I have to be honest with you, there's a part of me that wants to identify with that too, because, you know, as growing up, there were ways that I didn't fit in with other people, and I got bullied sometimes. And I don't think that bullying is necessarily the answer, right, to all this thing. But I still think for people who don't belong, there's still a place for them in some way, right? They can contribute to, you know, think about the autists, right? They may not be the most normie people, right? They're actually pretty woke. But they can contribute, and they can help be dissidents and get this message out to the normies. And maybe they don't directly communicate with the normies, these 4chan people, but they indirectly have a lot of power. You know, so this is just one example, right? And I think there's a lot of hatred towards the normie, but ultimately, what are we fighting for? We're fighting for the normal. And so we kind of dislike these normies because they've gone along with the program, and they've accepted all of the stuff that they learned in university. But that is why, I mean, that's in some ways that's what makes them valuable, and we need this sort of the masses of people. We sort of need them to carry on our society, right? And when we take back power or win the culture war back, they'll fall in line again with us. I mean, it'll be much easier actually than it was, I think, to get to this point. So I would just want to keep that in mind, because a lot of times there's hatred for the normie, the people who are asleep, but they haven't completely fallen into the clutches, and they'll never really be accepted. You know, your white normie leftist who's indoctrinated into progressivism, they'll use that person, but when they're done using that person, they'll throw them away. I mean, absolutely. It just encroaches further and further and further. Look at the homosexuals now. It's not enough to just support homosexuality, right? To really be on the establishment left, you have to be in support of trans people, people who want to have sex at any age, whatever the F that means. So that is the if you think of yourself in any way as sort of a misfit, or I'm not exactly like the stereotypical normal person, like, that's okay, and that you can improve. You can. I'm someone who does think that, maybe through therapy or whatever, you can cure things like homosexuality. I'm not against thinking about that as a possibility. And if you're scrawny or you're fat, you can go to the gym. You can better yourself and at least get closer to that normal ideal of what is going to be a benefit to our progeny and carry on the future. But just I want people to keep that goal of the family in mind, because that is what strikes fear into the hearts of our enemies, is that we take a stand against their bigoted beliefs and their hatred towards normal, homogeneity, heterosexuality, good, loving families who protect their children from predators. This scares the daylights out of these people, and they should be scared. As a religious person, you might think, oh, these people have demons inside of them. I mean, that's not a terrible way of looking at it. And it also helps you to detach yourself from just hating these people, because that's a temptation. We want to cast out the demons, and I think Jews and other people who are on these fringes, there is some hope for them, right? I think they can still have a society. They can still fit into the realm of normal, but when they go outside of these boundaries, we have to push back, because it's all or nothing, right? The good and evil battle, there's not room for both good and evil, right? It's constantly a struggle, and it is a win-lose situation, the good and evil battle. Now, ultimately, I think these people will win if the side of good wins, and if normal wins, if family values continue, because that is what will continue the human race, and the white race. But yeah, this is what it's all about, right? And so when people call you out for being a bigot or a homophobe or whatever, and they give credence to these ideas, just push back. Say, what are you? A normalphobe? Are you afraid of being around normal people? Do you feel uncomfortable when you're around normal people? Well, why is that? Let's really examine this, because that is scary. So, that's my message. Don't let them flip the discourse on you and tell you that all of their degenerate ideas are normal and you're the weirdo, because your country is slipping away from you, and why don't you just retire into shame and crawl into a hole and die? No, we're not going anywhere, and we will prevail. So thank you for listening to this so much. You can, if you want to support me, go to my website, illustratedphilosophy.com/donate. Don't forget the backslash at the end. And that's it. Keep fighting the good fight, everyone. Have a good day.